Welcome to On the Fly College Edition, a podcast presented by Playfly Sports. I'm your host, Gene Defilippo. Playfly Sports is the full-service marketing and media company bringing digitally enabled innovations to the sports industry. Welcome to this week's edition of On the Fly. I'm your host, Gene Defilippo, and our guest today is the very successful Director of Athletics at Villanova University, Mark Jackson. Jax, it's great to have you on the podcast.
Flip, it's an honor, man. It's an honor. I haven't seen you in quite a while, so it's always good to catch up with you and gain your insight. I always feel like I should be asking you questions, not you asking me questions. But we'll give it a run.
Hey, there'll be people out there that are listening that really probably don't understand your background. You coached in college, you coached in the pros. People don't know all that. They maybe think you're just the director of athletics. Take us from you being a student athlete at Colby through the present day.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll try and make it brief and quick, but I think you're right. It's probably a reflective flip of just basically knowing that I wanted a career in sports, but like a lot of people, not knowing what vertical I wanted to pursue. And I knew I loved sports. I loved playing football. We had a great run at Colby, made some of the best friends of my life. But towards the end, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. One of my closest friends and teammates at the time, he was 2 years older than me. He was involved with an internship with the Washington Redskins, and his name is Eric DaCosta, who is now the very successful GM of the Baltimore Ravens. Eric turned his internship into a graduate assistant job at Trinity College, and then he in turn offered me the chance to go down to Trinity College, get my master's degree, work for Donnie Miller. So I thought I wanted to coach. Concurrently, while pursuing my master's degree, I grew up in Mansfield, Flip, which is like right in the shadows of Foxborough Stadium. And I was fortunate to be one of the first interns that the Crafts hired when they purchased the team. So not only was I pursuing my master's degree and doing a graduate assistantship, I had maintained this connection to the Crafts. And at the time, Coach Parcells was running the team very successfully, and I got to sort of be a gopher for Coach Parcells. I learned a lot, getting his lemonade and his newspapers every morning, and then it transitioned quickly to Pete Carroll. And for whatever reason, Pete and I, despite being 20 years different in age, I had finished my master's degree. I still wanted to coach, and they had an entry-level operations position available, and stayed on with Pete and got a full-time job, and thought again I was going to be a head coach in the NFL. That was going to be my goal. And then I watched it fall apart for Pete, watched Pete got fired, saw a staff get blown up and sent, back all over the country. I was a New England kid. I never left New England. I was watching these lives get turned upside down, but I was fortunate. I re-interviewed for the job with Coach Belichick. I stayed on a year with Bill. And I give Bill all the credit in the world for teaching me that I wasn't cut out to coach. Where those guys were passionate about, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, 1 to 2 in the morning, breaking down film. That just wasn't for me. I realized that, and it's where the administrative piece really intrigued me. I wasn't sure whether it was going to be collegiate or professional, but I thought more of a front office role was going to be better suited for my strengths. And Pete fortunately offered me the chance to do that at USC. And I became the director of football operations and assistant athletic director. And, we had this wonderful, fantastic run of success from the early 2000s to 2006. And, but I'm not just saying this, Flip, because you're hosting this, and I hope you remember this. It was there. I would go home every summer to Boston to see my family, and I had hit sort of the ceiling of being a director of ops. And I remember vividly calling your office. You didn't know me from Adam, and your assistant patched me right through to you. And I asked you for advice, and you took me to Dunkin' Donuts there in Chestnut Hill the next day. After not meeting me, not knowing me, and from a hole in the wall, you invited me up, and you gave me some really good advice about broadening and gaining more experiences towards being an athletic director. That lesson was never lost on me. And you paying it forward for somebody you didn't know is the best part about our business. And, that's where our friendship started. And that's almost 25 years ago. But I used it, and I used your advice, and then, transitioned out of the football world into athletic administration there at Syracuse as a, the deputy athletic director under Gerald Gross. I got lured back to Los Angeles to pursue a sports marketing company, a startup that had a lot of really successful people behind it. Unfortunately, it didn't get off the ground. A lesson learned for me, a lot of lessons learned, and ended up from there. Luckily, Al Davis threw me a lifeline, and I got on in the front office with the Oakland Raiders, and that's where your son John and I worked closely together for a couple of years. They're working on their salary cap, their player contract negotiations. Loved the experience, but again, felt like something was pulling me back to college athletics. And you and I had a few more conversations over that period. Ended up back at USC, and fast forward, through Pat Hayden, who was another great mentor to me. Really positioned me well at USC to get involved on some AD jobs, and finally landed here at Villanova 8 years ago. So I know it's a twisted path, but you had a big influence on it. So I thank you, my friend.
Oh, well, you did all the work. Jax, you've had tremendous success at Villanova with your football teams, your basketball teams, so many of your other teams, but you're one of the few athletic directors today who actually played the game in college, coached the game, and now as assistant coaches. And I think that you have instant credibility when you come into the room from coaches and student athletes. And I think it's a big advantage. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, it starts with credibility, and especially in the initial stages, if you don't have a background with somebody, and like somebody with all the coaches here really, but particularly with Coach Wright, he and I didn't share any kind of commonality or connection point. So that took a while, right, to build trust. And I believe that role between an administrator and a head coach is vital. And we have a very horizontal model here at Villanova. So sport oversight is the most important thing you can do as an administrator in our department. And we have 24 sports here at Villanova. Not one administrator has more than 2 or 3 sports. And that's by design. So I have men's basketball and women's soccer so that I can immerse myself into that program. I can get it in the weeds on recruiting with parents, with issues. And I want that connectivity because I think that's the only way you can do it. It's like the approach the head coach takes. Now, I don't get involved in X's and O's, and I don't get involved in strategy and things, but I want all of our administrators to have that level of trust that the coach feels like he's in a partnership with his or her administrator. And now more than ever, Flip, with the issues that we face, the transient environment we face, the mental health issues we face, we're naive to think that a head coach has all the answers. So we got to support them at every turn. And the system here seems to be working, and we built a really solid level of trust.
Yeah. Jay has told me several times how helpful you have been to him, and how you and he have built such a good team together. What are some of the special qualities about Jay that make him so successful?
First and foremost, Flip, I think with Jay, it's just his ability to treat people really, really well at every turn, to make everybody feel like they're the most important person in the room, or the most important person or interaction that they're having at that moment. it takes a competitor's mindset to do that all the time and to be locked in the way that he is. And I think people have this perception of him being, that means he's a nice guy and, has soft edges. That's not the case at all. Jay is one of the most cutthroat competitors I've ever been around. But he does it from a place of love and wanting to see people succeed. And I think if there's a commonality, amongst, the Hall of Fame coaches I've been around, and I've been around Pete, and I've been around Parcells and Belichick and Jay and Boeheim, and they all know who they are. That they have a real understanding of what authenticity means, and that they're not different guys one day to the next. And, Jay's not trying to be like John Wooden one day or John Calipari the next. He is himself, and it took a long time to figure out. And I think that's one thing that I try and stress upon our younger coaches here is to do that, is to really do some self-discovery about who you are and what you're about and how you convey yourself to others. But and Jay has a way of doing that with such strength and authenticity. And I think it's been the cornerstone of his success, the person he is.
When Jay left, what were your thoughts? Oh man, here's a guy coming off of three Final Fours, won 2 of them. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, Flip, it's the friendship that was built between us over the last 8 years. That was the priority for me, and I wanted him in a good place. I wanted him in a happy place. I knew that he wasn't, for a number of reasons that coaching wasn't, fulfilling everything that he wanted to be fulfilled, and he wasn't at 100%. So, his overall health and well-being was the most important thing. And I think it felt really good that he was going to find a path towards something different where he could find that happiness. And then, beyond that, it's the instinctual side of, all right, how are we going to maintain this? How are we going to maintain the standard that he set? How are we going to put the right people in place? And especially in today's day and age where continuity and loyalty to a program are questioned, right? So right away, we needed to find a leader that could not only retain the current roster, but retain the recruits that were on the way, retain the assistant coaches, retain the strength and conditioning coach, all the different pieces that we've pulled together to build this great program. And at every turn, the answer was Kyle Neptune. And that's where Jay and I worked together to make sure that Kyle was going to be the right guy to come in and take us through the next era.
Tell our listeners about Kyle, where he came from and where he had left.
Yeah, Kyle was a player at Lehigh and cut his teeth in coaching, primarily here at Villanova over the course of about 14 years, but had other stops along the way. Most recently was the head coach at Fordham. But for me, Kyle was the guy that when I first got here 8 years ago, was a guy I sat next to on almost every plane ride, sat next to him at meals. We built a genuine friendship, and he'll tell you that he probably got tired of answering all my stupid questions about basketball. I was a football guy coming in from USC that had to understand Big East basketball, and Kyle quickly impressed on me not only his basketball intellect, but his ability to connect to people. This guy's got a basketball acumen second to none, can recruit, like anybody I've ever been around. But at the core, it's the way he treats people too, differently than Jay. He has a different approach and a different style, but he understands, and this, Flip, that there's a certain culture and community here at Villanova you have to learn to navigate in order to have success, and Kyle knows how to do that. And that's really what led to him leading this program.
Yeah, that's a great hire on your part. Congratulations to you and everybody at Villanova. You've had such a successful career. You've gone in different areas in different ways. You prove that there's no one way to the top. What advice would you give to a young Mark Jackson on the way up?
Two things. I would say slow down, unplug, and do that self-discovery work, or what I call the lonely work, Flip, where, whether you're on a vacation or whether it's a weekend and you put your phone away, you put your laptop away. And for me, it's writing. I believe there's affirmation in the written word, just about, for me, it was my leadership philosophy. What kind of leader did I want to be? I knew I wanted to lead. I wanted to lead something from an early age. I just always felt, but was it going to be did I want to be a GM, a head coach, an athletic director? Did I want to try something entrepreneurial in the business of sports? I knew it was sports, but it took me so long, to 35 years old. I had 4 kids till I finally zeroed in on my strengths. I felt were best suited towards being an athletic director. I wish I had done that process earlier. I was kind of guessing. But it was when I was on Cape Cod. My wife let me take a couple of hours every day of a vacation where, I was at a crossroads in my life. I felt like I needed to get on the right path. So I listed what I thought my strengths were, my weaknesses were, and where they were best suited. And everything kept pointing back to a college campus. And that's where I kind of cemented my mind. The other piece, for me, is, as you mentioned, I jumped around the country in between the NFL and college sports. And this can be a really selfish-driven industry. Like when you're the athletic director, you're the guy in charge. You're the one out in front. You're getting to do all those things. But I think the impact and the toll that it took on my wife and kids, God bless them, we stuck together and stuck through it. But it can be a hard business that way, right? And I think I wish I could have been more mindful of that, of the impact. It was kind of like, hey, guess what, honey? I got a job in Syracuse. Guess what, honey? We're going back to California. Guess what? We're getting out of college athletics. We're going to the NFL. There wasn't a lot of enough collaboration there as a family when those decisions came up. Now, when the Villanova job came up, it was collaborative. I wanted it. I wanted everybody wanting to come here, and my girls were getting into high school age at that point, and it was a much more family-driven decision.
Yeah. Oh, that's great information.
Mm-hmm.
I too was guilty of the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
moving my family around. I really didn't realize how tough it could be on the spouse and some of the kids. Now, the kids were very resilient and they were fine, but I always worried about my wife when we got to a new place, and finding doctors, and
Yeah.
just everything is new, and we often take our spouses for granted, and that's a great thing that you brought up.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing, I've still got lots of friends at Villanova. They tell me all the time, you are just a great dad. You drive your kids to school. You make sure that you spend some quality time with them. How do you do that?
Yeah, I think Pete taught me, it's not always the quantity, it's the quality of time that you spend. So when you do get the time, you want to just maximize it. And again, I go back to a competitor's mindset. I know it maybe doesn't fit right for a father-son relationship or a father-daughter relationship, but at the end of a long, road trip or a weekend where you're out fundraising and doing all this stuff, I mean, you got to compete with yourself to go home and be the best dad that you can be. It's the most important job we have. And sometimes that means, hey, get your butt off the couch. You're not going to sit and watch college football. We're going to go hit golf balls. We're going to go, go to the batting cages. We're going to go do those things. And I'm guilty just like everybody else. I sometimes lose sight of that, but if I'm going to be the best dad I'm going to compete in every situation, every conversation, especially now that they get older. Flip, how about this, man? I got 2 boys in high school now. I got 2 girls in college. I mean, when I first met you, they were babies, but
oh my gosh,
yeah,
that shows you how old I am. Hey, tell us about the girls. Where are they in college?
I got a rising junior at Princeton. She plays softball.
Wow.
And then I got a rising sophomore at UVA, and she's a violinist, musician. And then my 2 boys, I got a rising senior at Malvern Prep.
Oh, great school.
right down the road. And then my son, Sean, is a freshman at Conestoga High School. So, yeah, we got our hands full, but we're at that, next stage where it's, they're adults and I lean on them quite a bit, especially my daughter's in college with all we're faced with for advice, about the perspective of an 18 to 21-year-old, our most important asset here, right? We have 600 plus student athletes at Villanova. And, I try to look at every situation, Flip. Like you probably relate to this through the eyes of a dad. When these kids come in and ask me for advice or are having troubles, and try and guide them the best way that I can, as if they were my own kids. So there's a lot of back and forth between my own children and how that impacts the way I approach my job.
Yeah, my younger daughter was here playing field hockey while I was the athletic director.
Yeah.
And I relied on her a lot,
right,
to tell me what the thinking was of people that age and this and that and the other thing. And so when somebody would get in trouble, a lot of times they go over to Mary and say, how mad is your dad going to be at me? And she say, he'll be fine. He's put up with me, for years. He won't be that upset at that.
Yeah.
So we do need them. Okay. You're as hard a worker as anybody I know. You're trying and you are a great husband and a father. All right. What do you do to relax a little bit and to get away from the hustle and bustle of being an AD?
Yeah, I find the mornings, Flip, I got to get up early and find that quiet time to get my head together. So that's been really beneficial. Like, and my wife gets up early too, but we may sit and have a coffee and not talk to each other for 45 minutes because we're both in our own little world, either through prayer or sometimes I'll journal. That's where I'll do some writing, map out the day. But I find the mornings, obviously, exercise is a big piece, especially like during the pandemic and what we were dealing with. That's a nice getaway. Always. I wish I was more consistent with it, but and then beyond that, Flip, I got to tell you this because you appreciate it, right? Cape Cod is my getaway. I like getting to Cape Cod. Yeah. I can't say that too loudly down here because there's a lot of Jersey Shore people, but we still try to get to Cape Cod and shut it down the best we can. We get a lot of family up there.
Well, you have a lot of family up in this area, in the Boston area, so that only makes sense.
Yeah.
But, so there's something about when you go over that bridge where there's, and if you haven't done it, people don't know it, but when you go across that bridge, it's different. You can just relax. Am I right?
You are right. You're exactly right, man. And in fact, this summer we didn't do it. We didn't get to the Cape. I shouldn't say but we have an annual event. This is new since you've been here. An annual event over in Nantucket, and Father Peter headlines this show. But now we probably got 100 people. We got 100 alums over there, and it's been a special trip. So we just finished that a couple weeks ago, which was a nice getaway.
That is great. That's awesome. Mark, people realize what a great basketball program you have, and they know something about the football team, but you have a lot of other teams at Villanova that are doing very, very well. Talk about those teams a little bit.
Yeah, well, first it's, Flip, it's our collective approach to the most important things. And that obviously starts with the way we graduate our student athletes and the work that they do academically. I think we're on our 28th consecutive semester of a 3.0 average GPA or better. We've had
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's terrific because Villanova, they don't cut you any slack.
No.
I know that for a fact.
Yeah, and it's a tribute to the way our head coaches recruit here. It's phenomenal, and it's not arm twisting to get these kids to go to class. They come here, they want a degree. And when I came, Flip, 8 years ago, there was about 14,000 applicants for, call it 1,600 spots in each class. This incoming class had 26,000 applicants for 1,600 spots. So the academic profile of Villanova has skyrocketed, which in turn means our kids are competing in the classroom with some of the best students in the world, and they're not only maintaining, they're excelling, which is a great tribute. And we are flagship basketball. There's no doubt about it. And what Jay has built here has been phenomenal, and everybody has benefited from it. But we're incredibly proud of our entire platform of sports. Everybody's making strides. You know this. Track and field, really statistically, is our most successful program, and we continually turn out Olympians and All-Americans.
Can you elaborate on the success going back to the 50s where Villanova won?
Yeah,
won the NCAA outdoor track with I think 4 or 5 athletes.
Yeah, primarily built on mid to distance running. The legends that have come through here, from Ronnie Delaney to Eamon Coughlin to Marcus O'Sullivan. They had an Irish pipeline for a lot of years. That's the best distance runners in Ireland would find their way to Villanova and have incredible success, not only on the men's side but on the women's side as well. When you think about Sonia O'Sullivan, another Irish legend, Olympian, we were just with her out in Eugene for the track and field championship. So just an incredible foundation of success really across the board. And I know I'm leaving a lot of people out there, but that has transcended to confidence. With football, like you said, we got the number 6 team in the country this year, basketball perennial ranked, but to watch soccer, both soccers come on, both lacrosses have come on strong. Our softball program now has been to the NCAA tournament in back-to-back years. So there's just our women's swimming team have won 8 straight Big East championships. So we want everybody here to strive for championships, and never to compromise all that we do well in the classroom and in the community. But we have the right coaches, and I think one of our greatest attributes to all of it, Flip, is retention. And we don't pay at the top end of the market. I'd be the first to admit that, but for some reason, people stay here. We're not a victim of the transfer portal, knock on wood. Our coaches stay, our administrators stay. Our president went to school here, and has been here for a long, long time. So I think people take great pride in being a part of this community. And even Jay, on the way out, we found a way to hold on to him and contract him as a special assistant to the president. And he helps me out a ton with fundraising and everything, just because he wanted to maintain a connection to this community. We take great pride in that.
That just speaks so well of Villanova.
Yeah.
Everything you say, I've experienced. It's a tremendous school. People love it. Nobody's gone to Villanova that doesn't love it.
Yeah, there's something special about it. And to get to raise my family here, especially, and we didn't know anything about the main line. We didn't know anything about Philly. I was a Boston guy and spent most of my career in LA. And the main line, as is just beautiful. It's just a beautiful part of the country.
It really is. We're out of time on this week's On the Fly College Edition. I'm your host, Gene Defilippo. Thanks for your time this time, and we'll see you next time.